Michael Stelzner here, coming to you from the Social Media Examiner Studios. The topic of this show is Twitter and how it can help your business. I'm joined today by Deborah Cole Misak, better known as Coach Deb. She's the author of the book Twitter Revolution, right here, How Social Media and Mobile Marketing is Changing the Way We Do Business and Marketing Online. Deb has tens of thousands of followers on twitter.com/CoachDeb, and she's been featured in the Wall Street Journal and has written for Entrepreneur Magazine. Coach Deb, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
Very good. I'm used to saying aloha, but I'm in California now, so it's ola.
Aloha is totally cool. So let's talk to the business owner or marketer, Deb, about that's watching today. Why is Twitter so important to his or her business? What are some of the things that you would say to someone who's just getting started?
I would tell them Twitter's not important unless you care about PR, unless you care about buzz, unless you care about getting your name out there. I look at Twitter as online PR. I look at it as a way to get buzz for your business and how to connect with people. It's the same thing, and when people go, well, what is this whole Twitter thing and this online, and I don't have the time for it, and I say, well, do you have the time for any type of in-person networking, right? If you either have someone in your company that does it or you do it yourself, well, everyone makes the time for the in-person networking. Well, Twitter's the same thing, it just happens to be online. So I look at it as it's just like going to a cocktail party, getting to know people, building your relationships. Sometimes we use Twitter to build current relationships that we have that's existing, it's people we know, and then other times it's to get to know new people. So I think of it as an online Rolodex. Again, so you keep all of your contacts in one place, you organize them, and you go, all right, well, these 12 influencers I want to make sure I'm in contact with on a regular basis. And then these 50 people are all new prospects for my business, so let me make sure I'm engaging with them so they get to know me as a real person. You know, people want to get to know you as Mike behind the scenes versus Mike the formal guy that does interviews and does social media consulting and things like that.
Right, well, and it's great. We should say that you and I completely communicated over Twitter for this interview.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't pick up the phone, we didn't send any emails or anything like that.
Right.
So what I hear you saying, Deb, is that Twitter's really great if you want to get exposure, right, as far as the PR angle. But it sounds like you're telling me you can also use it to generate leads and opportunity, prospects, that kind of stuff. Is that true?
If you're smart about it and you have a strategy behind it, and you have something that is, you don't need to have a business plan for Twitter, but have some type of strategy and, think of it like a Post-it note strategy, right? Very short, but have a strategy. Know what your brand is, how you want to come across. And here's what I like to tell people to do is think about the emotions that you want them to experience online or even in person. When you meet with people, what type of emotion do you want them feeling about your brand, about your company? And then everything you do on Twitter should bring that out, bring the emotion out.
So, Deb, you have an enormous amount of followers on Twitter. What are some of the common questions or the biggest question that they tend to ask you, and how do you answer it?
Well, about the followers, they ask, well, how did you get them? And I tell them I never used a robot. Now, I know some people use robots, but I really wanted to look at organically, especially since I was writing the book on Twitter, I really wanted to see.
Explain what a robot is for people.
A robot would be something that you would turn on the internet that would go out there and randomly find people.
I see.
Right. And I wanted to really target the people that I was following. So I wanted to follow the early adopters, the geeks, the people that give me really good resources, because in the early days I used Twitter to get information, and it was fast information. So I didn't have to go to a ton of blogs and read pages and pages. I just got the best and fastest information about what's happening, what's cutting edge, what's going to happen, so I was able to predict trends. So I really wanted to have my followers as organic. Now, there's nothing necessarily wrong with using robots, except that Twitter has shut people down, when they've used robots. So I caution people about that. And if they do use robots, make sure there's pause buttons so it doesn't just go follow, 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 that, faster than a human could. Right. And there are some robots out there that will target now people in your industry. So that's much better than a random following, because it doesn't matter if you have 100,000 people if they're 7-year-olds or people who have no interest in what you do whatsoever.
It's not really about the number of followers.
It's
about
not.
The quantity, and the quality of the
quality.
Followers, right?
Yes. I think so many people get hung up and like, how do I get a ton of followers? And I'm like, yeah, it's good to have exposure and have a lot of people following you, but it's more important for a smaller group of people to be paying attention, right? Because I don't want necessarily followers. I want people that are actively listening, actively engaged, so that when I do send something out there, whether it's driving traffic to the blog or my Quan site or a resource out there or an invitation to a teleclass or a live event, they're paying attention because they like what I have to say, as opposed to, again, having it as ads or fictitious followers, and then I go, nobody's paying attention, and
Right. What's your take on this, how much great content you should provide versus how much selling you should do? Do you have any opinions on that?
It's interesting because I live in these two worlds of internet marketing and speak on the stage there, and also in the blogosphere.
Right.
And in the blogosphere, it's no selling, no selling, no selling, just have conversations. In the internet marketing world, it's always be marketing,
Right.
Make sure you get the word out, send your links, send them to your blog. So I'm kind of in that middle of, I don't think there's anything wrong with selling as long as it's relevant to the people that you have following you. That's why I don't do random following. And also, as long as it's not spammy. And bottom line is, I look at selling in a different way, right? So if you take that perspective, it changes things a bit. I don't look at selling as trying to just push my product onto them. I look at it as, what are your needs and how can I best meet them? And there may be 100 people, and out of the 100, 10 people specifically need what I have, right? They may need the software that I have. It would radically change their business. So I look at it and I say, well, if there are 90 other people who don't necessarily care about that, do I keep silent something that's going to change the lives of 10 people? And if you maximize that, now you say 20,000, 30,000, and now I have 1,000 people that it would change their lives, well, then I look at it and I say it's selfish if I don't share that. So if you change the perspective about your business, it's not selling, it's just providing services that people need, want, and desire, then it changes the game. It changes your perspective, it changes how you communicate with people.
Right.
And as long as, again, you're not going, go buy my book, or go buy my product, or go check this out.
Right.
Instead, it's, hey, I noticed you needed more SEO,
Here's
or I
the
need
problem
traffic.
that you have, here's a way to solve it.
Exactly.
Problem
Solve people.
solution.
Yeah.
Problem solution, I've been preaching that for years. And
Yeah.
so many marketers don't get that, especially those of us that came out of the 90s, which is the product marketing mentality, where it was all about taking a product and talking about it and its capabilities and features. And, and now it's, with social media, I think it's a lot more about engaging people by building some sort of affinity with them. And you can do that by talking about things that they're having problems with, right?
Yeah, and conversations. It's just like if you and I are having a conversation, I look at it and I say, that's how you do Twitter. That's how you get engaged in social media. Just remember that you're having a conversation one-on-one with someone, and be there with that person, because I wouldn't sit down and go, Mike, you should go get a Quan site, and this will change your life, and here's the top 10 benefits. That would be horribly awkward.
I'm not even looking for whatever that is.
Right. It's more about asking the person questions, getting them engaged, and I look at it and I say, in a group of people, the person who has influence is not necessarily the person talking in that party, it's the person getting the group talking. So you go in there, after you give your tips, now ask influential, powerful questions. Now, again, strategy is around in your industry, somehow it relates to your industry, but ask powerfully influential questions that people automatically have to respond to you. Again, that's how you get people adding you, sending you at replies, retweeting you, retweeting your question. That's what gives you influence out there in the social media landscape, and it helps you to be engaging and natural in your selling.
Now here's the killer question.
Okay.
The question of the hour.
All right.
This all sounds great, but it's so much time. It's so much time to do Twitter. How do you balance it? For example, we did the social media marketing industry report, and we found people were somewhere between 5 and 20 hours a week committing to this kind of stuff. So how do you balance it? What kind of advice do you have? You've been watching Social Media Examiner TV, and I'm your host, Michael Stelzner. To catch the rest of my interview with Coach Deb, be sure to visit the web address that you see on your screen. To keep up to date with the latest social media marketing tips and techniques, sign up for our free online magazine at socialmediaexaminer.com.